Hi, welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and today I want to talk about my reading goals for 2022. I guess I should also say that in addition to reading goals, this also probably has like some channel goals, although I don't intend to have any big changes happening in 2022 as far as like filming a schedule or anything like that. I guess the only like really channel goal that I have on here is to do a better job of kind of like organizing reading challenges and stuff that I intend to participate in. I am not good at that. I will jump into something usually a lot of times really last minute or not have it kind of on the docket, either because I didn't find out about it too late or just because I like forgot about it. So I want to do better about writing that kind of stuff down. So some of these challenges that I'm going to list here, I did participate in 2021. Some of them I didn't. So first one that I can think of anyway is middle grade March. I did participate in that last year, but I want to be more prepared for it this year. The other three kind of big ones are Jane Austen July, which sort of participated in because I read one Jane Austen book, but I would like to actually do all the prompts this coming year. I would like to complete Victober because I did not complete it this past year. And then also Nonfiction November. In addition, I would like to do my summer book bingo challenge again this coming summer, which I did this past summer. And it was super fun. I had so many of you participating and doing a giveaway associated with it with even more fun. And then I really want to do Vlogmas next year. I'm kind of doing it this year because I'm recording daily snippets, but I'm uploading it as a weekly reading vlog, so it's a little different. I didn't plan ahead as much in terms of like pre-filming and coming up with like a schedule or anything, so that's something I would like to plan to do next year. Okay, so pretty much everything on here is like reading goals. So one of these that does very much tie into BookTube is I want to be much more selective in the buddy reads and read-alongs that I participate in. I have had serious FOMO from BookTube of people reading books and I'm like, oh, I've wanted to read that book for a while and jump into all the things. And I really struggled with the end of the summer and the fall really overscheduling myself in terms of having too many buddy reads and too many read-alongs that I wanted to jump into, and I just felt like really overwhelmed and ended up really burning myself out. Particularly in October was when it really got really bad, and I was realizing I had no time to just mood read and pick out books from the library or even books from my shelf that I wanted to read. I was just too consumed with like buddy reads. So I want to be more intentional in what I'm choosing and being okay with saying no and realizing that I don't have to participate in every single buddy read ever. In that same vein, this is a weird goal. And it's not a very specific goal. I guess the buddy reads one wasn't either because I didn't give a specific number. I'm thinking I probably need to limit myself to like 3 at the most because when I start having 4 or more, I start feeling kind of overwhelmed. But anyways, this one is really not specific at all. And it's just that I need to be okay with reading less. So the first year that I really started tracking my reading really in depth on Goodreads was 2020. And as I'm sure you all know, 2020 was not exactly the most normal year. I had so much more time to sit around and read because everything was canceled and you couldn't go anywhere for pretty much most of the year. And then that kind of continued for us into 2021 a bit, and then things started opening up more. But then we also moved halfway through 2021. We moved from Illinois to Kentucky, which was a really big move. And once we moved to Kentucky, you may or may not know that my husband is a pastor. And when we lived in Illinois, he was actually working a full-time job outside the home. And then we were just doing small ministry stuff in our home. So it really wasn't as busy or as much responsibility as there is when you're pastoring an established church, which is what we're doing right now. So there's a lot of things that we're doing now that we were not doing 6 months ago. And then in addition to that, this is the first time that my husband has pastored an established church since my daughter has been school aged. He was pastoring an established church right up through like kindergarten, but from first grade on, that hasn't been the case. So I'm juggling that with homeschooling full time And then my daughter is part of a homeschool group that meets once a week. She's also taking part in archery, so there's practices and tournaments, and she's getting ready to start back up piano lessons. So I am just more busy in general than I have been in a very, very long time. So I want to be gracious with myself and not set unrealistic goals for myself, because I've read close to 200 books in 2020. I think it was like 170 something or 180 something. And I'm on pace to complete around the same this year, but I want to be fine with next year reading a lot less, because my reading has really slowed down from probably September on with all the added responsibilities, particularly with homeschooling this year and all the different events and things we've had to get to. So I want to be fine with that and not just beat myself up if I'm not reading as much as I want to read. So I really want my reading goals for this year to be more manageable. So that's kind of where less buddy reading comes in. And then I do have some very specific things that I do want to be reading this year. And I want to make goals that are achievable and not discouraging. Okay, now I'm going to get into much more specific reading goals. So one of my specific reading goals this year is I want to read more nonfiction. It's pretty common for me to read around one Christian nonfiction a month, because I like to, in addition to my Bible reading, be reading something that's spiritually uplifting and encouraging to me. But this past year, I really started, starting with nonfiction November, I started reading some other books that weren't necessarily spiritual nonfictions, and I was really surprised with how much I enjoyed it. So I really want to read some more nonfiction in the coming year. I want to continue to read spiritual nonfiction as well, but in addition to that, I want to read more nonfiction. So my goal is to read 8 books that are nonfiction, and that feels very, very doable, because that's way less than one book a month, because some of the books that I am choosing are going to be longer, some are going to be shorter. You can look out for my 2022 nonfiction TBR video that will be coming out pretty soon, but 8 seemed like a really achievable goal. I also want to be intentional in choosing classics this year, which I was last year. I did a 2021 classics TBR, which was super fun, and some of the books I was really in the mood for when I chose the TBR, and some were really challenging and were harder to get to. So it was a good mix of books that I really wanted to read and books that I felt like I needed to read because they'd been on my shelf for a while. So you can be looking out for my classics TBR video that will be coming out pretty shortly here also, because I have multiple TBR videos for next year that will be coming out soon. I am choosing 12 classics, which was super difficult for me. I considered doing 22 classics for 2022, but I wanted to leave myself open for buddy reads or mood reads of other classics that I might have. And so I decided to limit myself to 12, and I actually have not quite gotten this TBR together. I'm really close, but I'm debating over which book should fill the last 2 spots. It's really, really hard. Probably one of my biggest and most difficult things that I need to work on in the next year is to reduce my physical TBR. I have been doing a lot of book shopping lately, as you might have noticed. I have some really amazing thrift stores in my area. One that lets me fill a bag of books for $1. I have a library that has books for 10 cents or 25 cents. And then I have thrift stores that have books for $1 or less. And so I've picked up a lot of books very recently since we've moved here, which I'm fine with, because I've mentioned that our library is super rural and our interlibrary loan is just our county. So there's a lot of books that I'm enabled to get my hands on. So when I find a book that I might be interested in at a thrift store, I'm apt to just pick it up because there's a good chance my library doesn't have it. And I don't regret that. But my shelves are already overflowing, and I bought new shelves when we moved here that were huge and beautiful, and I was like, oh yeah, these aren't gonna fill up. They're already overflowing. So I really want to reduce my physical TBR. I want to make sure that I'm reading the books that I'm purchasing or books that I've had on my shelves for a really, really long time. So I have a few things that I'm going to do to help me with that. One is a project, again, a video coming out soon, but it's going to help me to read or get rid of quite a few books on my shelf. I also want to participate in the Read Your Bookshelf Challenge, which Chantel Reads All Day puts on. She has done it for the past 2 years. This will be her 3rd year doing it and my 3rd year participating, which is really fun. I look forward to doing that every year, but I'm going to try to use that to help get through some of my physical TBR. I'm also going to participate in the Buzzwordathon this year and try to use the prompts solely for books on my shelf that I need to either read or get rid of. And then I'm also going to have a list, and I'm going to post a video with my list soon, of books that I really just need to read or get rid of. And I want to do the booktube spin and put those books on the booktube spin as well, so that way that's another way that I will be hopefully motivated to get through some more books, because as you can see, it's ridiculous. I actually just reorganized my bookshelves last night, so they are looking a little better than they were. But my bookshelves in my library are kind of like messy and overflowing as I'm trying to choose my classics TBR and trying to put away all these new books that I bought and I don't really have space for. So then I just have one more goal for this year, and that is to use StoryGraph more. I have been using Goodreads for the past few years and I don't intend to stop using Goodreads, but I love StoryGraph and I've not done a good job of keeping up with it. But there are multiple reasons why I love StoryGraph. One of which is that you kind of get like these graphs at the end of the month, like these pie charts that kind of show the kind of books that you've been reading, the genres that you've been reading. It's really fun to look at those at the end of the month. I really like that. I also really like that StoryGraph has spaces for trigger warnings and stuff for every single book, and you can choose not to click on them because they can be spoilery. But I really appreciate that because there are certain things that I tend to try to avoid in books, and I really like places that make it really easy for you to find content that you might really just want to avoid. I don't think StoryGraph is nearly as widely used as Goodreads, but I will put a link to my StoryGraph down below. I think I have like one friend on StoryGraph, and I think it's Naomi from Naomi's Bookshelf, because she's the one who I heard mention it, and I loved how she included the graphs and stuff in her monthly wrap-ups, and I think they're really fun. And so that's part of the reason why, honestly, that, and I don't know if they're annual ones. That would be super cool if there was. You can transfer all your data from Goodreads over to StoryGraph, which is really fun. So I like that there's a way to export that, so all your information, all your ratings, all your reviews are still there. And I've done that once, but I think I might have to delete my data and do it again at the end of this year, so I have all my stuff for the whole year, and then start fresh on January 1st by updating both StoryGraph and Goodreads. And hopefully that won't be too much for me to keep up with, but I think I'll be really happy when I see like the graphs and all the information in just a fun visual format. I'm very much a visual learner and a visual person, so the idea of being able to put cute little like pie charts over here of like the kind of books I've read for the month is just exciting to me because I'm a nerd. So anyway, those are my goals for 2022. I tried to be specific with the ones I could be specific with, but a whole lot of 2022 for me is gonna be adjusting my expectations for myself. I do want to push myself out of the box a little bit in terms of expanding my reading, especially with nonfiction reading, but I also don't want to burn myself out or get frustrated, because that can happen to me. So I really want to have a mix where I'm able to push myself, but I'm also able to mood read and also able to set and meet goals for myself. So I think that these are pretty good goals and pretty achievable goals for the year of 2022, and I think it's going to be a really awesome reading year. I'd love to hear from you down in the comments below. What are some of your reading goals for 2022? If you've set them already, I'm going to assume you've at least started thinking about it, but maybe you haven't. Maybe you wait till more the end of December, beginning of January. I have been thinking about my goals like since like October, because I'm weird like that, and I like to plan. My plans often go awry, but I really do like to plan. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me, and I will see you again next time.